Ellie. Hi
Hello.
guys. I haven't checked the date. It's day 94 of lockdown and it is June the 22nd. Hi guys. Oh, Lucy's doing a regular
We're doing a
yep.
vlog, so she wants to come and sit
Right.
under our feet.
Yep, we're gonna have to start giving her like performer credit in this because she's here every night now. She's doing a lot better, I think. She hasn't had.
Well, you were going to ask about. I mean, it's not the best way to start.
No, we don't
vlog,
need to talk about her bowel movements on the vlog. It's fine. But was it better? No. Okay, she's still a bit poorly, but I think she has actually been feeling a bit better overall today because she hasn't had long, panicky sort of.
Seems better in herself, as
yeah.
I say.
So we'll keep her on the bland food. So we'll have to like get some more stuff ready tonight for tomorrow. Then, so yeah, bless her. But yeah, she seems to be improving. So if it continues on that swing, then that's fine. But if she's still struggling tomorrow, then maybe it'll be vet strips. But yeah, she seems quite happy actually, and she hasn't been panicking today. So I'm thinking it's subsiding, whatever it is.
I've been feeling a bit run down myself.
Yeah, you have sort of said that you've been quite.
And I don't really know why. Like I went to the big supermarket for the first time in a long time. I was wearing a mask, but most people weren't.
Yeah.
I was just following World Health Organization advice, but presumably a lot of people know better.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've caught coronavirus, but it has occurred to me that like all this not interacting with people, and then you go out in the world, and it's a bit like your first term at university.
Yeah, you get a bit
or
of
when you
freshers
go
flu.
up to like it's known to happen to performers who go up to the Edinburgh Festival. You come from your own little bits of the country, and then suddenly you're all in the same performers bars, and
suddenly everything's
all
circulating
these kind of
for the first time
germs
in a
that you've
while.
brought from all over the place, and everyone gets a cold. Or you get freshers flu, and I do wonder if there's a bit of that of kind of. You go out. We've been quite isolated for a long time, and then suddenly I go further from the house than I have been in weeks, and maybe I've picked up some sort of bug or something that my body's not been prepared for. So yeah, nothing serious, but just
and literally none of the sort of symptoms that could even be associated with corona. So it is, if anything, a little bit of a cold or something. But yeah,
I think so. But I feel a bit like I don't have. I mean, I've not let it stop me eating, but I haven't had much appetite, and that's not like me.
Sorry, there's a.
So
she's panting for the first time today, so sorry if I'm a bit distracted. Come on, she's okay. She has just come in from a walk though, so she might just be hot.
But so I've just. It's not like me, is it? It's not have my appetite.
No.
And I ate about 2:00, and it's gone 10 now.
Oh God, is it?
And I'm not really feeling that hungry for dinner.
Well, maybe don't have anything big and give yourself a bit of a break.
I mean, I'll force something down because I'm very brave.
Yes, you are so brave. So brave.
But we'll see.
Well, yeah, hopefully it's just that you're a little bit run down and you picked up something minor, but obviously keep an eye. But yeah, and I think the rules sort of and the guidance is unless it's one of the sort of known corona symptoms, you don't have to do any of the sort of self-isolating type stuff, but I guess keep an eye. Can't hurt to sort of be careful. I should explain, you've probably noticed, I'm wearing a wig. That is because I am royally sick of my hair now. It's been so long without professional attention that even just having it clipped back, sorry if you can hear a bit of fuss, it's alright. Even just having it clipped back, it just looks atrocious, which some days I can handle, and other days I'm like, I see myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God. So I just hid it basically today. But I've got all these wigs, I might as well wear them.
Most of the time, I don't envy that sort of that women a lot of the time wear makeup or feel like societal pressure to wear makeup. I'm not saying women have to wear makeup, but a lot of the time they do, or they feel they should kind of look a certain way or to kind of feel confident in themselves, all that sort of thing. And most of the time, I don't envy you that at all. Because it
nice
feels like a lot of effort, but there's just the occasion I'm looking at your wig and looking at my lockdown hair and going, oh, I wish I
did offer the wigs. He was welcome to wear one of them. Yeah, no, I think I kind of look at it like the same, because as you've noticed on this blog, some days I don't wear makeup. Some days I do the full works. And I think like it's nice to have the option, but it's nice to not feel like you have to. So I'm in my own home, and but yes, obviously I'm putting this out to sort of whoever in the world wants to watch it. And yeah, some days I guess you've got the self-esteem to just go, fuck it, I'm just gonna have my my natural face, and people just have to deal with it. And other days you're like, no, I want to look a bit better, or I want to feel a bit better. It's nice to have the choice.
I think because you can put a wig on, and it's just like, oh, she looks good today, you know, with her nice hair. If I put a wig on, it's more of a statement, isn't it? It's more like, it looks like I'm trying to draw attention, or make a point of something.
Well, I don't know. I think it looks a bit ostentatious that I do, but yes, it's certainly more so if you do. So I actually
can't just kind of put a wig on and just be like,
can't just hide the hair and do something.
He's looking smart.
Yeah,
like, you know, that's not.
Well, that's sort of a thing that I kind of like. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, because yes, the fact that women have the option to do it does become a certain amount of expectation to do it, but it would be nice, I imagine, for you guys to have that option and it not be sort of a statement.
Well, we did that,
to like,
didn't we?
just, but I mean more like low key, just kind of be like, oh, I've got a spot, so I'll put a bit of foundation and concealer on to hide it. Like, it doesn't necessarily, like, I don't think that there'd be anything wrong with that, but I think there would be quite a lot of men that would feel too self-conscious to do that, because then there'd be, particularly here, you'd probably get away with it because people wouldn't necessarily be able to tell. But if you were out and about and you were close up with people, you might be thinking, oh, can they tell I'm wearing makeup? Are they thinking about the fact that I'm wearing makeup? And it's like, it's sort of a shame that like couldn't be just, oh, I've got my skin's not great, I'll put a bit of foundation on. Like, I think that it is it's a bit of a slippery slope, because once you do your face, you then like, oh, well, I'll just do a little bit of, and then it ends up being that you've got 28 different products on your face, even for a natural look.
We were talking about this when you did my makeup and put a wig on me before, and you know, some of your friends were saying, oh, he looks really good. You know, you have to bring him to the pub like that. You know, we'll have to have a night out sort of thing. And you know, there's a part of me that goes, yeah, that'd be fun. I'd be up for that. You know, look a bit glam and whatever. But there's another bit of me going, well, I'd probably be fine when I'm at the table with my friends, but will I feel a bit self-conscious when I'm at the bar and it's just me getting around
at the urinals?
Well, yeah, like, exactly. Go to the toilet. Will I get comments, or you know?
I think that's a shit. I think obviously there are safe spaces that you'd probably be absolutely fine. That have a zero tolerance to any kind of intolerance policies. So I think there are places that you'd probably be fine. But even if somebody wasn't being like abusive and nasty, it might make you feel self-conscious. If somebody's also just like, because they actually might even just be being quite complimentary, but like some bloke might be like, oh, I would, or something, and then you're like, oh, I'm being a bit looked at in a bit of a way that I don't really like. But then, welcome to womanhood.
And also we know pubs that are kind of try and be safe spaces and try and be very well-meaning, but the trouble with dickheads is often they can go into those places and they have to do something wrong.
Themselves. Yeah, they have to do something wrong at least once for it to be known that they're dickheads.
So it could be that by the time you're in the toilet and someone's, you know, being a dick.
Yeah.
You know.
I do know of some people having like really tough times of it. I know. Well, I don't actually know how they identify, because I'd say probably non-binary. Although I think this particular person is on their way to being fully trans woman, but at the moment sort of has two personas, and so depending on how they're dressed, kind of depends on which pronouns you'd use. So you sort of roll with the punches, which is all cool. They have had issues where pubs that they are very welcome in most of the time, when they've gone in their female persona, people have made complaints. Well, women have made complaints about them using their bathroom, and I think that's fairly shitty, because it's like, well, I wouldn't want to be a man, and I'm in my female persona that day, and so therefore I'm female that day, and I'm identifying as female. I wouldn't therefore want to have to use the male bathroom, because I'd feel very self-conscious going in there dressed feminine. And therefore, the female loos should feel like a safe space, I would have thought. Like, you are identifying as female. It's not like you're going to use a urinal in there, because there aren't any options. I sort of have a feeling like, why aren't... I guess it's for speed and efficiency, but it would be so much better if just all loos were cubicle loos, and just we didn't panic so much about bathrooms being gender divided. Like, have two separate rooms and have it, but just have it like not being strict rules on this is only for people with this type of genitalia, because it's like, it's none of my fucking business what's going on between anyone's legs. And I think if somebody goes into a gender-defined bathroom and gives people shit in there, then make a complaint. But if somebody's just in there using the facilities, why do you give a shit?
Well, I've been in places where there's kind of 2 toilet cubicles. And it'd be like a small venue, like a bar or something, and there's 2 toilet cubicles, and one will say men and one will say women, but they're essentially enclosed spaces. Yeah. And maybe there's a queue for the gents, and maybe a woman comes out, and there's no one waiting, and she's like, oh, you might as well go in there, there's no one waiting. You go, yeah, you're right, I will. And then you go in, and then you come out, and maybe you get a dirty look off some...
Yeah, I think, basically, if you've got enclosed loos, because actually there's a few restaurants in town that have got proper, like they're entirely enclosed, like even the sinks and everything are in the cubicle. You shut the door, you close the door. They've got the facilities that you need, so they might have a sanitary bin, and they've got a sink and a mirror in all of them. And then I think queuing is fair, and everything you might need is entirely enclosed, so you're not sort of having to sort of be exposed by, I don't know, needing to use a tampon machine or something like that. Like, why? But they've still got male and female symbols on them, and you're just like, why? Like, what are they doing in there that's only male? Like, it's like,
I'm aware,
it's a toilet. Like, we all pee and poo, guys. We all do.
I think, like I say, you know, I couldn't be doing with the hassle of doing makeup most of the time anyway, but like, I do think it's a shame that people can't just like, well, makeup could be for anyone, and that's, you know, and it has to be so kind of defined and whatever.
That will become more normal.
Well, because I realise, like, you know, I'm not a trans person. I just think it'd be nice to kind of glam up a bit sometimes. I think that would be fine if
but I think maybe if more cisgender folk did actually push boundaries on sort of the look, that would actually be positive for all. It would be positive for trans and cis people and anywhere in between. Because then I think it would be you'd be less conspicuous if you were trans, if it was more normalised for everyone to sort of maybe have long hair or maybe use a little bit of makeup to sort of make themselves feel a little bit better. The other flips, it's a weird one, because I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong on this, because actually I know plenty of women who are cisgender women who don't wear makeup at all and actually don't really think that it, like, sort of are against makeup, and I kind of think I can see your point, but at the same time I like that I've got the option.
When it's very difficult to kind of not tie yourself in knots when you're trying to go, oh, I realise that women wear makeup and that, but not all women, because I really, you know, and you're trying not to kind of, but also the other thing I was trying to say is, like, I realised, like, I'm sort of saying about, oh, well, why can't I wear makeup without feeling awkward, and like, but I realise it's a lot easier for me than for someone who's actually trans and actually wants to live that life and is made to feel uncomfortable. And
so I think it would be nice if people could.
I've been guilty in the past. I know a trans comedian who, you know, had a joke about, like, you know, and they had, like, nail varnish on, but otherwise they were kind of presenting as male, and they sort of said, oh, you know, I'm trans, I'm just lazy.
Right, yeah.
You know,
that's quite a good joke.
Which is a good joke. But, you know, I've been guilty in the past of kind of, like, there's a bit of you that responds to that and go, yeah, well, if you're trans and you kind of, why are you kind of picking and choosing when or whatever? Like, when I was kind of quite ignorant to some of these things in the past. But also the thing that I just didn't take on board or consider or take into account is that person had travelled on public transport to be at that gig. Yeah. So you've got to take the thing of, I'm not just going to dress like this for my gig. I'm going to dress like this, you know, and go on public transport, and not just go on public transport, but then have to get back on public transport late at night, and then get back from the station to your house. And just all these things.
You don't want to be having to pull the Clark Kent thing and, like, having to, like, take a whole change of clothes with you and sort of having to sort of have dual personas.
No, or like, feel like it's a costume that you're going to have to put on. It shouldn't be. Yeah, that's... So, like, it's
I just wish people could just chill the fuck out about it. Does it matter to you if
that was a very kind of white male privilege thing of me just not really understanding all the kind of inherent
well, I think it's fair to not know and to learn from it. I think, like, that's the thing. Also, I think people get a bit terrified about talking about anything in case they say the wrong thing. But I think, like, I'm not pretending I come to this from a place of great knowledge. So if I say something wrong and somebody goes, oh, well, actually, and corrects me, or sort of goes, oh, well, you said this, but actually you haven't thought about this. So I'm open to learning. So feel free, if I do ever put my foot in it, let me know.
As I mentioned, sort of male privilege. Yeah. I was going to sort of leave this stuff to sort of the end, but I feel like it might be the time to kind of...
No, that's fine. Well, actually, we've waffled for a bit, and we had some quite important stuff to talk about.
Well, basically, you know, some of the stuff that's come out and that we've talked about in the last few days in the wrestling industry about all the kind of the hashtag Me Too
and speaking is it
hashtag Speak Out is
yeah.
the hashtag, but it's hashtag Me Too kind of adjacent stuff that's going on, and of also in comedy that's been happening again. Now it happened in America. A guy, Chris Delio or Delio,
I don't know how
something,
it's said. Delia is how I
has been
read
kind
it.
of outed
But, yeah.
as a rapist basically, and there's another guy, Joey Deacon, who was on the Joe Rogan
Yeah, you told me about this
podcast, and he was sort of basically bragging that he used to kind of give people stage time in exchange for blowjobs, and then the other men on there all kind of laugh, which and some people have said, well, hopefully.
Well, there's half the problem, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Like,
the fact that that's laughed off rather than being met with horror, because the only appropriate response for that is to be met with horror. But if you feel awkward and you laugh along, you're kind of complicit in normalising that sort of shitty behaviour, and I'm not okay with that either.
No, and then he's kind of been come out, and then some people said, well, maybe he was exaggerating or joking, and the fact that that's considered like a thing to joke about, and that people were laughing along, that's pretty gross. But if it is real, it's gross. But then other people have then come out and said, well, look, he was, say other people, one person I saw on Twitter anyway, they said, well, that is gross and everything, but the real danger is the guys who seem like a really nice guy, and you try and say they're not going on podcasts saying that they abuse people. They're seeming very nice and reasonable and lovely, and then accusations come out and people go, no, well, he's always been lovely and he's really charming and he'd do anything for anyone, and those are kind of really insidious, dangerous guys, because and that's when people worry about they're not going to be believed if they don't speak out and things. There is someone who was, and that mostly seems to have been in America, although there's someone in Ireland I don't know the name of who's been outed.
Well, these things do tend to snowball, don't they? So a few pop up and then it encourages people to come out with their own stories. So you tend to get like a little bit of a sort of, it gathers momentum and then more names come out and more accusations come out.
Someone I actually know in real life has been outed on Twitter as an abuser, and I have to say it wasn't a surprise to me.
No, I don't know this man personally. I only know of this person through notoriety about these sorts of stories, which
I know him directly as like a bully, and someone who's tried repeatedly to kind of belittle me in front of other people in the past. Someone who has tried to kind of drive a wedge between me and my friends by talking to them about me behind my back, not realising that friends talk to each other,
and you trust each other more than you trust him
to each other than we were to him. But you know, that's how I know. That's the things I know out in doing that have directly impacted me. And things, and obviously you can only kind of talk about the things that you know. Like I had known for a long time that he's basically an abuser who cheats on his partners, manipulates them, sends horrible messages, sends kind of messages, unwelcome messages to female comedians, tries to kind of and won't take no for an answer, or try and persist when he's been told they're not interested.
I can imagine.
Try and manipulate his power dynamic as a booker or someone higher up in the comedy industry that they might be able to offer opportunities, or block them from getting opportunities.
Which therefore puts an added, we mentioned this before with the wrestling speaking out thing, but it's an element of pressure, and you're taking advantage of a power dynamic there. And men who do this know they're doing it.
And he's basically like a grim man on any number of levels that you care to think of. And I'm not going to name him because his ex-girlfriend who outed him on Twitter, who's also accused him of having hit her once, and she didn't name him, so I kind of feel like it's not my place to do that. But a lot of people know exactly who I'm talking about, and if you don't know, like, feel free to message me privately. You know, I'm people who know me will know that I've never have anything but bad words to say about this guy, you know, in conversation should he ever come up, because he's a horrible man.
Yeah.
And I always have to say that publicly. I've never put it on social media. I've tweeted about it today, but I've never put it out publicly like I'm doing now, or anything before, because it's like I think we were saying the other day about Ian Hislop talking about Jimmy Savile, and sort of saying, well, everyone in the TV industry saying, well, we knew about Jimmy Savile, and well, why didn't you do anything? Well, we'd all heard rumours.
And it was
Everyone
only
had heard rumours,
you
but
haven't
you
got anything
can't.
substantial that you can say
And then
for sure.
So if you come out with that, that's libelous, or it's whatever, or you can't. You can't just kind of.
Well, also there's an element of when it's accusations of any level of sexual misconduct, particularly, but if it's not your story personally, there is a sense of, well, I don't know if this is my story to tell.
There's a sense of, if you go, well, this guy does this, and I know it because he's done it to this person and this
Yeah,
person.
because then
you're outing people as victims that aren't
yeah,
necessarily
and
ready
I
or
think
comfortable
very
with
much
that.
so, and it is a very tricky one because everyone, all women I know have been victims of something like that to some extent, usually on many occasions. I know that I've got certain stories in the past that are pretty traumatic, and that if a friend of mine knew the person involved, I would certainly warn them against spending any time with them. However, whether or not I would have the courage, but also the sort of energy to out them publicly for what they've done to me and other people is a different thing, because when there is a sense of guilt and sort of duty to do so because you don't want other people to be victims in the same way, at the same time, by doing so, you are suggesting that you're going to have to keep reliving it and keep talking about it and keep saying, well, this is what happened to me. And from a personal perspective, it's not a story I particularly want to keep telling.
No.
I have mentioned it in private to people. I'm thinking of one specific incident, but actually there are several. When it happens with a stranger, like in a bar, or someone's just inappropriate, that's horrible, but it's much easier to deal with because they're not someone that you have any crossover with. When it happens with someone you know that is in the same group of friends or in the same industry or in the same workplace, then it becomes infinitely harder, if you are the victim of it, to come forward, because you don't know who will be more their ally than yours. You worry that people won't believe you. You worry that people will judge you for getting yourself into the position where it was possible. It's difficult. I actually, when I like, it's an interesting thing to talk of, if you don't mind me sort of hijacking. But from the perspective of somebody who's been on the receiving end of this type of behaviour, it's really difficult because you feel a bit hypocritical by not coming forward, but at the same time, there's very little incentive to do so. Like, what's in it for me to come forward other than I'm going to have to tell my story? It's going to be my word against theirs. And the people in my life who choose to believe me, I can just tell them. I don't need to sort of have a big to-do. But then at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but then does that mean somebody else goes through it that I could have potentially stopped that from happening? But you look around and you see people who have had accusations made against them, and they have a bit of drama for a few months. Inevitably, charges don't stick, or there's not enough evidence, and essentially they go back to normal, and you've gone through not just the initial trauma, but the repeated trauma of having to go through it and defend it. And also, once it's out there, everybody has that image of you in that situation, and feelings tied into that, and it's sort of like, well, I don't really want people to think of me as that vulnerable person who had a shitty thing happen to them. So it's kind of hard to know, like, what's in it for us to come forward. So anyone who does should have infinite respect,
absolutely,
and belief, because that's a hard thing to do. It's easier not to. And there are repercussions to coming forward that aren't necessarily positive. And it's a source of guilt if you have one of those stories and you don't. But you've got to kind of look after your own mental health. And maybe one day there will be a time when I can talk more freely or I can name names. But for now, I'm not there. However, if the person that was involved was someone that was in the public eye in any way, shape or form, I think I would have more sense of no, people need to know.
Mm.
Thankfully, this particular person is a dickhead who won't come to much. But you know, like sorry, there's a cat meowing. It's so I'm really proud of you and glad of you that you're not shying away from those conversations.
But I mean,
because I think particularly with men, they get very uncomfortable talking about it.
well, I'm not looking for any. So I think I'm doing the least that anyone.
No,
should be
but
doing
I
at
just
this
want to
point.
sort of
And,
say that, like, I
and I
feel
don't-
comfortable talking about this with you, and that is not something
That's-
that would be true
That's
of,
good.
of
I don't
many
know if
men in
there's
my life.
more that I could have. There probably is more that I could have done in the past, or ways I could have been a better ally, or things I don't know. But like, I certainly think, this guy in particular that we were talking about, and I'm sure more names will come to light, and I'm sure there's going to be other stuff that comes out. But I mean, before I say that, I'll say there's been people in the comedy industry. There's a sort of almost a received wisdom that, if you don't work with horrible people, you'll never work. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many kind of
That's not
horrible,
game,
dodgy promoters. Not specifically sexual abuse,
no, but
abusers, but so many sort of dodgy promoters and shitty people and nasty bullies and whatever else.
Hashtag
and
not
like,
all promoters.
And you sort of kind of get used to this kind of thing, but you shouldn't be used to that. It shouldn't be a thing that people just accept. It's kind of crazy when you kind of step back from it. And I guess not all comedy being cancelled for this pandemic period is kind of maybe giving people a chance to step back and kind of look outside of it and get a bit of perspective. But
well, I do worry about that slightly, and I sort of said this to you earlier, because this particular guy concerned, he's made a statement. He's made a public statement that's very contrite, very apologetic, owns up to for the most part of everything he's been accused of, and okay, I'm glad he has, I suppose, but I am looking at it thinking, yeah, while nobody's booking any gigs, I wonder if there will be long-term repercussions when we get back to gigging, if this will actually stick.
The thing is,
I hope it does.
I've got a few points on that. Is that he made this big statement saying, oh, well, I did behave very badly, but I'm in therapy now and I try and work on myself and be a better person, and I just think. And then I saw someone commenting on that, basically giving him a pat on the back for being so brave and honest. And I'm like, yeah, he was only honest
because somebody else outed him.
He didn't just volunteer this information out of anywhere. He's kind of looked at that and gone, what's the best tactical approach here?
Yeah.
I can't deny it. There's no plausible deniability. And also, it's not like this is a couple of isolated, out of character incidents. This is a repeated pattern of behaviour, and with lots of people involved. And I've known this guy for years. Like I say, he's been a bully to me, which is nothing compared to like being the victim of sexual abuse.
But it speaks to his general character, doesn't it? That he just doesn't care who he hurts and plays power dynamics.
Yeah, and he's a horrible, and I've seen bully other people as well. He's a horrible guy, and he's anytime he gets caught out for some bad behaviour, I've known him for years now, and he's long been quick to apologise and slow to actually change his behaviour in any significant way. And he's a nasty piece of work, and I don't think anyone should be giving him a pat on the back for being brave right now. And just, I mean, to be very clear, there never should have been room for people like this in the comedy industry. But I think maybe I'm thinking like, well, comedy's just all stopped and we've all had a bit of a breather and live comedy's gone away for a while and we don't know when it's coming back, and when it does come back it's going to be slow to come back, and there's going to be fewer gigs and less money, and it's just going to be tough for everyone for a while. And it just seems like maybe this is a perfect time to stop giving gigs and money and opportunities to known sex offenders and abusers of any kind, you know, and just
time for a big spring clean of your talent roster, I think.
And it shouldn't be.
And also, maybe just kind of if you've heard rumours, you don't have to know that they're true to just kind of think, well, if I'm hearing essentially the same rumour from multiple sources, then maybe give the benefit of the doubt to the people coming forward, rather than, particularly when it's multiple sources, because what would be in it for multiple people to lie about the same person? Like, because you always get straight into the bullshit conversation about false allegations, and false allegations do happen, they do, and that's awful as well, and that is the biggest dick move, because actually you're ruining it for real victims of things like that. Like, it's so terrifying to feel like you're not going to be believed, that anybody who does lie about something like that is an abusive dickhead, worthless piece of shit as well.
And a lot of people have, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of men in the comedy industry going, you know, well, what should we do? What are we going to do? And I certainly don't have all the answers, but I do think we should listen to the women, because a lot of this stuff, you know, even when we know about it, it's through kind of rumour. It's not directly affecting us, and often we don't know about it, or what we know is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And
yeah, there will be worse that has happened. There'll be things that have been alluded to but not actually implicitly said, as I can demonstrate with my telling of my own story. I was very sparse with the details. Yeah, I think if you are in a position where you are booking people, or you are of any power at all in any industry, whether or not it's just a workplace or just a friendship group, just because something doesn't affect you doesn't mean you should tolerate it. So if you know that somebody has done something shitty, the best thing you can do is just, okay, well, I'm not going to associate with that person anymore. Doesn't affect me, but I'm going to be an ally to the people who are affected, because it's so easy to just go, I hope that's not true. I'm not even going to, I won't say anything to him. I'm not going to, because I guess the best thing you could do, which he actually alluded to in his public statement, was that it took somebody who was one of his peers to call him out on it that made him open his eyes. Call people out on it then. At the very least, if you've heard rumours about someone who you are friendly with, talk to them about it, call them out on it, rather than going, that's an awkward conversation, because it's much easier for you, who was not involved, to talk about it than the person who was affected by it. So call them out on it, don't tolerate it, and believe victims when they come forward is the best thing I can say. There isn't any easy answer to it, because it's difficult. It's really difficult and really uncomfortable.
The other thing I've been thinking about, because obviously, as a wrestling fan, I don't know any of those wrestlers personally. I don't know anything about their private lives. So, you know, I know on here I come across as quite the expert, but it's all relative. And I don't really know like a lot about a lot of these wrestlers and things. And like, when some of them are having like basically their careers and livelihoods kind of taken off them at this point, and I'm not saying that's right, I'm saying rightly so, but like, what I don't know is and then the similar thing happened when I got into an argument on Twitter with someone about Mike Tyson, where I was saying, well, he shouldn't be held up as like the babyface hero on a wrestling show that has an audience with kids in it.
Yeah.
You know, I know kids watch that show, they turn up with a face paint with their heroes. They shouldn't have Mike Tyson being held up as a role model at any point.
He shouldn't be being idolised. He shouldn't be making big money.
And I got like someone kind of going, well, he served his time, you know, that was years ago. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe
he's a rapist though.
And I'm it's like I don't know what you do. I'm not saying
you're not saying lock him up and throw away the key, but you are saying don't idolise him. As some sort of hero.
And like, I'm not saying people don't have the right to kind of make a living. Do you know what I mean? Or like exist or grow and change and try and be better people, but maybe there are certain just kind of things that you just don't get to do.
Well, I think also that shows a level of lack of remorse, because if you've done something terrible like that, let's say you've killed someone, I don't think you should be comfortable taking a paycheck for playing a hero, really. Like, essentially, you'd be like, no, I don't deserve that.
I don't know what...
Pay penance for what you've done.
I don't know what jobs... What I don't know is where you go from there and where the line is and what you go, well, that job's appropriate for a rapist.
Well...
Do you know what I mean? I don't know what you do, because I guess it's dangerous to be like, that person's life is so destroyed and ruined that then... They just go, well, what's the point of trying to redeem myself or be a better person? Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I think that there's definitely infinite middle ground between.
And I don't think, and it's the same when it's like
they could try and do some good behind the scenes
or things like that. And I kind of think like comedy is a job where there's lots of opportunity to exploit the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's also a job where, at its best, it's, you know, really good fun and you know, you get like laughter and applause and lots of like affirmation in that way, and you get opportunities to do cool things and meet cool people. And I just think maybe just this guy and those like him just maybe don't get to do all those cool things anymore. Like maybe they're off the roll call. Maybe they don't get to do panel shows and go to festivals for free and
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just
there's plenty of good talent out there by decent people. I guess, and if you don't know, you don't know. But once you do know, don't tolerate. I think that's the best thing that anyone can do as an ally is not sort of turn a blind eye.
They've set up a sort of comedy steering committee to try and help the industry. And being in Wales, a lot of it was quite London-centric, the kind of grip and this. And you see the nominees, and I see people on Facebook sort of going, well, that person is such a dodgy, corrupt guy. If he gets on the council, it's all going to be a joke. And I don't know these people. I can't really comment, but it is like there are people who are just known for their shitty behaviour, and it's just they're allowed to kind of exist within this industry. I guess that's a kind of it's capitalism.
It's hard to
it's
knock down a hierarchy once it's been created, because the people with the power have friends with the power and are in with the right people.
It's hard as well, like if you're at the bottom of the ladder or you're still trying to find your way to kind of do things that you...
Yeah, because you might know that, say, a promoter was a bad guy, but you're like, but I still need the gigs, like...
And it needs, I mean, I think we need, in that way, we need like high-level people to kind of speak out, and people from the top down to be like, right, you won't be booked for the top weekend clubs, and you won't be booked to do TV, and these people will speak out against you and won't work with you.
That's what it is, isn't it? Like, if you've... It's like when I was sort of talking about people like J.K. Rowling misusing their platform. If you have a platform and you have power, then you can choose to use it, wield it well. Like, don't tolerate people behaving badly, because you don't have to. People at the bottom of the ladder do kind of have to play the game and might have to deal with horrible people and sort of pay their dues with dickheads. But, like, if you have got the power to not book someone or to not give someone money for just because they've got friends, just because they've got a good agent, and just because they scratch the right back, you don't have to play ball. So don't, there are other people who have to, and I feel really, really sorry for, and I say women, but obviously this does happen to men as well, but largely when we're talking about these kinds of situations, it's usually women that are the victims of it. It is a very easy lifestyle. Speaking about comedy, it's a very easy lifestyle for if you want to misuse it, because you travel around the country quite a lot, you stay away a lot, you crash on people's sofas, you meet different people every night, you are being treated like you've got status at every gig, so it would be very easy to sort of wield that for your advantage. Also, if you're married or you've got a partner at home, you're literally somewhere where nothing's going to get back to them because you're on the other side of the country. It's very easy for you to misuse it.
If you drive, maybe there's people dependent on you for lifts.
Yeah, that's a big thing that happens. I saw actually when I was looking at the sort of story today after you'd gone out with the dog, that there's a network that because it's quite common, female comedians sort of having to sort of sleep in bus stations and things because they've had to get to gigs that they can't get home from. But there's a network of sort of safe spaces that you can stay, that you can sort of apply to wherever you are. I don't know how well they're vetted, but the fact that that is needed is depressing. But it is good that people go, well, yeah, we get it, we know what it's like.
It's very difficult if there's a creepy guy as your ride home.
Yeah, and you didn't know he was creepy when you accepted the ride.
Yeah, and then they've got the power. Or it could equally happen the other way around, where you're the woman, you're the one with the car, you've offered a lift to someone who you don't know is creepy, and then you're then in a position where, like...
What do you do? Leave him in Reading and then face the professional backlash to be like, no, he was a dick, so I left him there.
Yeah, it's very difficult to boot someone out on the motorway and be like, well, you're going to have to... And then that person's slagging you off and you don't want to kind of talk about what's happened, and it's just a whole shit show. So it's very difficult. You know, and like
the sense of immunity, though, to it. The sense of people won't come forward, so I'm safe to treat people this badly. Like, it needs to end, but that's easy said and hard done.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of crazy to me that people are still able to kind of think that way and get away with that in this world of like social media and texting. Like I know people who kind of, for example, aren't necessarily abusive, but like cheat on their wives, for example. And I'm like, in these days
And
of
it's
social
common
media
knowledge.
and texting and and everyone's got a camera on their phones and everyone
So much
just
worse for the
the
other half
the
that like
kind
you
of
find
the
out, but also you find out that loads of people knew and didn't tell
but the
you.
incredible kind of brass balls on these people that just think like they can.
It's a
It won't,
sense of
I
entitlement.
will. I'll get away with this because it's the other side of the country. Like I can see how that might have worked in like the 1970s
Yeah.
when you had to kind of go to like you just wouldn't see someone's partner and you had no way of interacting with them. But if I see a comedian, I might be friends with them on Facebook. It's easy for me to see who their
It's
wife is.
difficult though,
Do
isn't
you know
it?
what I mean?
Because
It's
actually,
such
like,
a
if you know someone's behaving this way and you know their other half, but you don't know them well, it's very hard to want to be the one to drop that bomb, isn't it?
It is, but then
I think like the only way I can think about this, because I don't actually know anything about anyone specifically. I hear things, but I've not witnessed or known anything myself. The only way I can think about it is like, I'm not a religious person. You might have noticed that. But one thing I do think is actually really good rule of thumb is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if I were in that situation, take note. But if I were married or in a long-term relationship and my partner were having it away with other people and people knew and didn't tell me, then not only have you lost your partner, but you've lost a lot of friends as well, because you'd be like, you knew and you didn't tell me. Like, it's a betrayal, because also, as well as being betrayed, you are humiliated as well, because you feel stupid because everybody knew it and nobody told
must
you.
feel like people have picked a side, and that side
Well, they've picked the path of least resistance. It's the easiest thing to do is just keep your mouth shut.
I guess that's true.
Is it the
but
right thing
it
to
must
do?
feel though sometimes like people have picked a side, and they've picked the side of the person who's behaving really badly, and you're like, well, I've done nothing wrong, but I've been sinned against, and people are still like kind of. But yeah, you're right. I think it's a least resistance thing a lot of the time. But
well, same with coming forward. Same with all of that. It is the path of least resistance.
Sorry if it's not been a
it's
funny
not
one
a funny
today,
one,
guys. But
doesn't my hair look fabulous?
It does, and it's also talked about, I think, important stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important actually for these conversations to happen. I think that's a good thing that comes out of any of these movements, like Me Too and Speak Out, and little by little it becomes easier to talk about it because you realise other people are talking about it. From my own experiences, of which there are depressingly many, talking about it is difficult, but actually it does help. It makes you feel better. I probably won't go into details on an entirely public blog. But yeah, if ever anyone who actually knows me has been through anything similar, I am happy to listen. I'm also happy to talk. But it is depressingly common. I noticed, I think it was I used to keep a blog, I think I mentioned, and I was in a long-term relationship for most of my 20s. And lived in London all that time, but I sort of had a group of mixed friends, male and female, and for all of that time, basically, I had a get out of jail free card. Nothing really. Occasionally, you'd have like a slightly sleazy guy maybe touch you up a bit in a pub, but you're like, oh, that's gross, but never mind, I can walk away from that. But like, after me and this chap broke up, and suddenly, and I was single for about 5 or 6 years on and off. Suddenly, the first year of being single, suddenly so many quite big and quite dramatic shit things happened at the hands of other men when I was out in public. But the difference was I was out in public with only women. And that's when it suddenly starts happening. Because if a predatory guy sees a group of men and women, he's going to leave them alone. But a woman on her own or a woman with other women is a prime target. So I had a massive eye-opening experience within like my first year of being single of like, holy shit, is this what the world is like? And that was at about 29 that happened, because I went to uni, I was in relationships through basically all of uni, and then I was in relationships until I was 29, and then suddenly between like 29 and 33, a whole world of shit. And I was just like, oh shit, I had no idea. And so no wonder men have no idea that this is happening, because you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't know.
I have always hated dating. But the reasons that I have hated dating are because I am socially awkward and shy and, unconfident in kind of going and meeting people and thinking, oh, are they have any interest in me and what I'm going to talk about, and it's going to there's going to be awkward silences, which is not fun, but it is such a kind of position of relative privilege compared to just not liking dating because men are going to be horrible, abusive people and going to send unsolicited dick pics or try and be gropey or not take no for an answer or keep harassing you after the fact, after the date, and you have to block them and do a bunch of stuff, all the things that can happen and more, you know.
Yeah, and then you've also like if you've got like one of the biggest things that I have as a fear, like a big discomfort or fear, is that I will just be out on a normal night out with friends and I'll see someone that I've had one of these experiences with, and then immediately your night is ruined, you're on edge, your stomach is in knots, and you just want to get away and you panic and it's horrible. And they have that power just by going about their day-to-day business. It's not like they're even likely to come up and talk to you, but as soon as you see them, you're like, oh, fuck. And thankfully, all women get it. So as soon as you say to someone, somebody is here that I need to get away from, right, I'll get my handbag, off we go. And that's the reality of it, which is depressing, but it just is the reality of life as a woman, and I don't think it's talked about enough. So if you are a man and you have women in your life that you care about, I can only speak from my perspective, but I don't necessarily want to go into gory detail, but actually knowing that you're someone that I can trust to talk about it with, and that you will believe me and that you'll have my back. Oh yes please. Literally, like, I've had to ask male friends to sort of pretend to be my boyfriend before, just to get rid of like a sort of sleazy guy, because actually having your own autonomy does not work with sleazy men, because the only, like, you saying no I'm not interested, they just think that means try harder. No I'm not interested should be enough, that should go without saying, but actually I've got a boyfriend, that's usually what does it, because they're like, oh, somebody else has already got you, okay, well I respect him more than I respect you, so I'll leave you alone. Like, I'll respect man I don't know more than I will respect you, but that sort of tells you everything you need to know.
Man I don't know of a woman that I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm attracted to them, I want to do things with or to them, but I won't show them any respect whatsoever.
No. And it's depressingly common, and we just need to be better, guys. We need to raise better men, and we need to be better men, and we need to be just better people.
You don't need to be better men.
I don't need to be better men.
You're a good enough man already.
Thanks. I do take out the spiders. Right, I think that's probably a good point to end. We're getting longer and longer with these, but that's quite a hefty conversation.
It is. We need to go because there's a cat who's very confused because he's just been meowing at us for ages.
He's given in and eating the dry food now.
Why are they not feeding me? This is the system. I meow, they immediately acquiesce and get the food because we are.
He must be actually hungry because now he's eating the dry food, and that never happens.
We are very sort of put upon, aren't we, these cats? Well, we're suckers. But anyway, yes, so sorry it's not been the most fun one, but this is important stuff to talk about.
Well, if it encourages any one of you to have a good conversation, then please do it. Not a fun one today, but an important one. So, and if you do need to know who we were talking about, send us a message. We can always let you know privately. Either for sort of professional or gossipy purposes. Right, okay, guys. I think we'll call it a day there. Look after yourselves, like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.
There's no shame in it.